You've probably heard about game jams, but what are game jams? A game jam is a competition that many developers join to try and make the best game. They can either use the engine of their choice or use the engine that the game jam holders specify. Also, some game jams offer prizes such as money. This time, I was participating in the Pirate Software Game Jam, which was supposed to be sponsored by GameMaker, but unfortunately for some reason, they stopped sponsoring the game jam, which meant no more prize money. But I guess that didn't stop me. There was one problem. I started the game jam a bit late since there were 5 days left for it to be over while it was supposed to be 2 weeks. I first started with the art of the game. I'm going to show you JT in a second, but just know that I'm not an artist and I was rushing through the game jam.
You serious?
Well, don't ask me what that thing is because I'm not sure. So I had to start programming the movement of the character since I finished with the art. I just quickly added a simple code for the movement. Now you can see I added basic movements for the player and made the gun point towards the mouse pointer. Also, ignore how bad the art looks. I was really rushing. So after that, I added a simple script for the bullet so the gun can now shoot. And boom! You can control the bullet now and it follows your mouse. So whenever it hits an object, you have to go to it and collect it so you can shoot again. Wait, let me explain the idea real quick. Since I forgot from the beginning, the idea is that you have to find your way out of whatever this thing is, and you're going to do that by controlling the bullet and making it go to places the player can't reach because he's too wide, I guess. So I felt like this idea was pretty good since I only had 5 days to do it, and because of how I wasn't thinking probably, I edited the video while I was finishing my game. So now I made it so you have to shoot the bullet and get it through the small hole and hit the button with it, so the player can get to the next place. After that, I started working on the map a bit more, but I didn't really have an idea on what puzzle I should make. So of course I asked ChatGPT to give me an idea. Then it gave me a pretty cool idea. It said to make 3 switches that you can only reach with the bullets and you have to hit them in order. There was this one funny thing. In the rules of the game jam, it said we can't use AI. But I wasn't sure if this really counted, and I am exposing myself right now. But I didn't really care. I started by making a door that if you got close to, it would bring a text. But now we needed to add more stuff, so I quickly added a simple line of code for the bullet. And then, bam. I added one of the buttons that you need to press in order to open the door. So now I needed to add the other button. And yeah, I switched it to 2 instead of 3 because of time limit. Surely not because I'm lazy to add 1 extra button in 2 days. And for some reason. This game reminds me of Boomerang X. I think it's because you have to catch your bullet if it goes away from you in my game. So now I didn't want the game to feel short, so I started creating the other button, but I wanted it to be a bit harder to get to than the other one. So now I started by developing the stage a bit more. And then I got a good idea in my head. My idea was that when you get to the next area, you're going to see a drone, which will be your enemy, and then it will start chasing the player and destroy him. So I started searching for auto-draw, since I didn't actually know how to draw correctly, so the AI will do the job. But the problem was that the AI couldn't draw me a drone for some reason. So I had to create this weird fan. So then I imported it to my project and dragged it into the scene. And I have no clue why, but the background was just gray even though I used a background remove app. I went to the Unity asset store since I could not fix the problem, and found an asset that had pretty cool enemies. So I got the asset and dragged in the enemy. It was too big, so I had to adjust its size real quick. Then I started with a code for the level, and don't worry I sped up the video because I know the attention span got reduced. And boom, I made it so the bullet has to hit the button. In order for the player to proceed, then when you go up, you will find that enemy that I added earlier and it will deal damage to you when you touch it. So now I started working on the stage a bit more and I added another enemy. which I ended up removing later. But I wanted to add a boss for my game, so I dragged this guy and adjusted his size. I also wanted to give him an animation so the game actually looks better. And this should work. I started programming him and it took me a day for some reason. Let's see it now. I added this weird guy to warn you and gave the player a new move so he can fight the boss once they reach there. Ignore how bad it looks. I don't got time to fix it. There is 1 day left for the jam. Yeah, I think I made it a bit hard, but you know what they tell you? Hard games are always better. So after suffering for a long time, you can finally kill him. And the screen gets black and brings you back to the door. Now I started working on the UI for the game, and as you can see, I had no time to do anything, so I just added the start button and some other stuff. So guys, after working on the UI, I barely had any time to do anything extra. So I just made it so you go back to the start screen if you win or lose. I knew my chances of winning the jam were very slight, but why not try maybe I could get something like top 10 at least? So now I'm just going to show you a gameplay of the whole game before I submit it. Okay guys, let's start testing the game now. Let's activate the first button. Yeah, by the way, I know your attention span is that bad. That's why I sped up the video even though you reached till the end somehow with that attention span. Okay guys, we finally reached the boss fight, so let's start. You know, I just realized that we forgot the sounds. I have to go back and add sounds quickly to the project. Wow, the boss fight is actually pretty hard. I just died if you're wondering. Alright guys, we just beat the boss. Let's open the door now and win the game. Okay, this is the game we're gonna submit. I just hope I at least make it to top 10 or 20. Guys, I had no time to fix any bugs or anything, so I just submitted the game like this. Okay, let's publish this project. Let's name it One Bullet. Hopefully the name looks cool. Alright, does the project have AI involved? Of course not, don't worry. Okay, let's submit it, and ta-da! I finally submitted it after days of hard work. So, guys, I was pretty happy I could finally rest, but I might have forgotten one small thing. When I submitted my game, I just added a link to the YouTube video of my game. I know this is crazy, but I did not actually send my actual game, just a YouTube video. This was my first time publishing a game for the Jam. I had no idea. If we go to the submission page on the Game Jam, you could clearly see that I had to submit the whole game. If I just read the rules and details of the Game Jam, then I would not have been in this mess. Well, that concludes it for the video. Please hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I worked really hard on it since I was working on the game and the video at the same time. I guess I wasted 5 days of my life from this Game Jam.